The letter from the minority leader who said, we've got 41 votes here to stop you from even debating this bill. Will you explain that to the American taxpayer, to the small business, to the American family, and to others out there who are paying an awful price because of the mess that these very institutions, who are today leading the charge against us getting to a bill, explain to them why the status quo is in their interest and their benefit. Mr. President, those who vote to block this bill will be sending a clear message to American families, businesses, community bankers, and taxpayers. And that message will be, I'm sorry, but we're not on your side. We're choosing another side of this equation. Last month, my good friend, the minority leader and the Republican senator responsible for campaign fundraising participated in a meeting in New York with Wall Street executives. And that happens all the time. Certainly have the right to sit down and talk with people, represent labor and business. We should do that. But nobody knows what was talked at that meeting when you come back, and again with our friend and colleague who chairs the campaign committee, comes back right afterwards, and all of a sudden we get this rhetoric about too big to fail, we can't possibly go to this bill. Now, I was born at night, Mr. President, but not last night. Born at night, but not last night. And don't tell me that miraculously these things happen and all of a sudden we find ourselves with, once again, 41 colleagues, many of whom I suspect are not overly enthusiastic about this game plan, that said, don't ask why, don't tell us what's in the bill, just tell us we're going to line up and say no matter what anyone says or does or what they've tried to do, we're going to object to you even going to this bill. I firmly believe that there's more than a small minority of my Republican colleagues who frankly find that argument objectionable. And that's not to suggest they like this bill or agree with every position in it. But I know them well enough to know that they're sick and tired of being told how you're going to have to vote on a procedural motion on a matter that I think deserves at least the support of our colleagues to begin that important debate. And what we do know, of course, about the opposition to going forward is that the Republican leadership returned armed with some very false talking points written by a political strategist with close ties to large financial institutions, talking points that have been debunked by the independent media analysis, and even Republicans like FDIC Chairman Sheila Bair. And let me point out, Madam President, the memo that suggested this game plan, written by the political strategist, was written long before even one word was written on the bill. They were told how to fight the bill that didn't even exist out here by accusing the bill of leaving open the too big to fail, even though they knew, at least those who'd read the bill, that those provisions had been written so tight that no one could possibly argue that too big to fail would ever be allowed again under the bill that we've written. And the Republican leadership returned promising that every member of their caucus would vote to kill this bill before the debate even began. Now, I've worked for hours with my colleague from Alabama, as he well knows, Senator Shelby, to the point that he has said, and I commend him for it, and I appreciate it very much, that we are 80% of the way to a bipartisan consensus. In fact, I suspect that if Richard Shelby were asked today whether that number was 80%, I suspect he'd even have a higher number. Well, imagine being between 80 and 90% in agreement, and yet we're being told by the minority we can't go forward. Do I let you write the whole bill? Is that when we can go forward? You got 80 or 90% of what you think is a good bill, but no, we're going to stop any further debate. In all my years, I've never heard of such an argument, whether I've been in the minority or the majority, that I agree with 80 or 90% of what you've written, Senator, but I'm sorry. We're going to have to stop even considering any further debate on the floor of the United States Senate.